If I were to write my GMAT exam today, I will have to pay $275, which is a lot of money.
Right.
And then thereafter, I have to give a lot of fees to the Harvards and the Stanfords going forward. But if I were to write the UPSC exam today, all it costs me is $2. It's a great leveler across geographies, across tier 2, tier 3 cities. And one of those important positions is the positions of a diplomat. Today, a rural farmer in Madhya Pradesh or Uttar Pradesh may be oblivious and may have absolutely no idea who the Foreign Secretary of India is, or the Ambassador of Namibia is, perhaps the Foreign Minister of India is. But I can give you in writing that she will have direct effects. There will be direct consequences of the negotiations that these people do in the corridors of WTO or the UN.
Since so many years, the civil services preparation in itself is such a good upskilling, right? It could upskill you for entrepreneurship, it could upskill you for a lot of jobs, just for life as well.
For some of us who grew up in tier 2, tier 3 cities, we have this conception that folks who are from Mumbai to Delhi to Bangalore, they are much smarter than us. Perhaps because they speak better English, perhaps because they grew up in a very networked ecosystem, perhaps because they got a good exposure at a young age. You will not be given medals for clearing prelims examination. You won't be given medals for clearing mains examination. You have to score incredibly well in your mains and interview. They are always self-projecting themselves before the world projects them. Even when they're preparing for civil services or UPSC, in the back of their mind, they will always have this misconception, perhaps because they are not as smart or as geniuses as the folks from IIT or St. Stephen's, they might not be able to crack civil services. And number two, the kind of services that we are in. If you are in the IFS, you will have a lot of benefit if you join in early. If you're becoming part of the IFS at the age of 22 or 23, you will have a really good chance of becoming the Foreign Secretary of India. This podcast is going to be different because this podcast is not the part of the Money Heist series. However, this podcast is going to be of extreme relevance for anyone who is flirting with the idea of becoming an Indian diplomat in 2024, 25, 26, or 27. I will repeat it again that this podcast is for those who want to become an officer in the Indian Foreign Services, not the IAS or the IPS, but the Indian Foreign Services. If you are struggling with time, then bookmark this podcast, save it, and watch it later. But do watch it end to end if you're watching it up until here. You can double the speed and complete the pod in 15 minutes because every second of this podcast is going to be worth it. We've already spoken in detail about the life in the IFS in another podcast with my dear friend Prathit. But in this podcast, we talk about how can you become an IFS officer. You may not agree with a few points in the podcast, and that is absolutely fine. No scientific society can thrive without a debate. However, I'm of the firm opinion that for a country to succeed and grow, the most important thing is to have good, motivated people occupy important positions. Think about it. If you have motivated people in important positions, they will learn, they will make mistakes, but most importantly, they will contribute. And they will do so with extreme passion and pride. A country cannot thrive if it does not have good, ethical, motivated people in important positions. And today, one of the most important positions in India is that of an officer in the Indian Foreign Services. The Indian Foreign Services matters today because foreign policy is no longer foreign. It affects people right where they live. Today, whether you're a resident of Delhi or Durban or Dallas, whether you're from New Zealand or Namibia, it is simply not realistic to think only in terms of your own country. A woman farmer in India may not have the slightest idea who the Foreign Minister of India is, or would care about the American withdrawal from Afghanistan, but she will know when the kerosene of her kitchen stove has become unaffordable. She does not understand international economics, but she is directly affected when she is not able to sell her produce because of some negotiations that happened in the corridors of WTO or the UN. Our health, our security, our prosperity, our quality of life, and even our businesses are increasingly affected by what happens beyond our borders. That means we cannot simply be indifferent about our neighbors. Sadly, many youngsters who get into the Indian Foreign Services are those for whom IFS was not even the first option. They got into the IFS because they could not qualify for the IAS. IFS was down below in the list of preferences in the detailed application form. This needs to change, and this will change because now we're launching something called the Misfits. 2 years ago, I was at the United Nations headquarters in New York City when I received an anxious call from a friend. Only this time, it was his sister informing me that her brother is no more. What followed next were frustrating moments of grief, disbelief, and anger. Why? Because it was only a few years ago, my friend and I had appeared for the UPSC civil services interviews together in Delhi, and we both could not make it to the final list. I moved on, but he could not, until he exhausted all his attempts. I could not believe why someone as bright as him would even succumb to the pressure of not clearing an exam. And more so, how can anyone give so much importance to an exam? But the mind plays tricks. It plays tricks when you are all alone and in an ecosystem that gives so much importance to one singular outcome in life. It plays tricks when you give power to society to comment on your capabilities. It plays tricks when you think that there is no way out of this exam cycle. But the fact of the matter is that in a country like India, 99% will fail exams, especially when one such exam is the UPSC Civil Services. After the news, I was clear in my head that I will not let a single person ruin their 20s because of this exam. It goes without saying that clearing the UPSC exam has changed many lives. But at the same time, millions have ruined their 20s, stuck in the endless loop of appearing and reappearing for the UPSC Civil Services and living the rest of their lives as losers of some kind. They approach the exam with high hopes, but if for some reason they end up failing in civil services, they should all have the opportunities to bounce back in life. Misfits.bet is going to be that opportunity for you. Misfits is for those who are confused and struggling to find right guidance in the quagmire of irrelevant coaching institutes that are sadly run by motivational speakers and entertainers and not by the teachers. Misfits is going to be for India's next 100 diplomats who will promise me that they will appear for this exam just once. And they will do so with all their might, all the right guidance and support system. And if for some reason they do not make it to the final list, they will pivot. We live in a world that is inundated with a lot of information. And sadly, most of that information is irrelevant. Misfits will provide you clarity in your 20s. Because in a world filled with irrelevant information, clarity is indeed a superpower.
Hi Naman, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Shatakshi. Thank you so much. How are you?
I am doing really well myself. It's always very exciting to have a podcast with you and have a lot of free-flowing conversations with you. So today we are going to be talking about a new initiative of yours which you are really very passionate about. I am going to be probing a lot of questions that I believe our audience might have from you. So I hope you're excited and ready for that.
Little nervous, but yeah, go on.
Sure. So let's start from the start, Naman. What is this initiative about and why are you doing this?
Okay, so this first and foremost, this initiative is called Misfits. Very interesting name. So I was born and brought up in a tier 3 city called Gwalior in Madhya Pradesh. It's tier 2 now, but when I was growing up, it was a tier 3 city. And for some of us who grew up in tier 2, tier 3 cities, we have this conception that folks who are from Mumbai to Delhi to Bangalore, they are much smarter than us. Perhaps because they speak better English, perhaps because they grew up in a very networked ecosystem, perhaps because they got a good exposure at a young age. But for many of us, that's not the case, at least in the growing up years. And because of this, we tend to think very lowly of ourselves. We tend to self-doubt ourselves. So some of us who go into the IITs and St. Stephen's, we realize that it's all humbug and you can definitely improve in a span of 1 or 2 years. But for many who could not get into these universities and are stuck in those tier 2, tier 3 ecosystem, for them, bouncing back in life gets very difficult. They are always self-rejecting themselves before the world rejects them. Even when they're preparing for civil services or UPSC, in the back of their mind, they will always have this misconception, perhaps because they are not as smart or as geniuses as the folks from IIT or St. Stephen's, they might not be able to crack civil services, which is wrong. People who got into the IITs and St. Stephen's, they worked really hard, but also because they got access to great mentorship, great support system, great guidance in the form of elder brother or elder sister at a very right moment in the right time of their life. So via misfits, I want to ensure that people who think that they are misfits and are not fit to get into civil services, I would want to be an elder brother to them who can guide them, mentor them along the journey. And the goal is to ensure that in time to come, at least 100 IFS officers go on to become part of the UPSC journey from the misfits.
Wow, that's a very noble mission of yours, and I admire that. But why are you calling it misfits.bet? Seems like, are you betting on something?
So getting the .com domain is a Herculean task. That could be one. But in true honesty, I think it's very easy to place a bet on winning horses. Why this initiative? I want to place bets on the dark horses. The world thinks that they are losers. The world thinks the world does not believe in them. I want to ensure that with scientific knowledge, with proven methodologies, you can be part of incredible communities, be part of incredible ecosystems, and can crack any exam in the world if you have the right guidance at the right age, and as long as you're willing to work hard. So that's why I'm calling it misfits.bet, not misfits.com, because I want to emphasize on the betting aspect of betting in the dark horses, not the winning horses.
That's very interesting perspective. Thank you so much, Naman, for sharing that. My next question is about what is unique about you. Let's be really frank and let's be really candid. The civil services, IAS, IFS, IPS preparatory examination market is pretty big. There are a lot of big giants in this market, in the so-called edtech space. There are big giants in the offline infrastructure space. Why should someone join you? What is going to be different about you, Naman?
Okay, so I'm already minimizing the market for myself. I'm consciously doing this only for the IFS. So folks who are interested in pursuing a career in the Indian Foreign Services, they should be part of Misfits. We can talk about the reasons why I'm doing that at a later stage. But in terms of the unique value proposition, I would tend to think of in three ways. Number one would be the methodology that will be employed in training these youngsters. We're all aware, we're all cognizant of the fact, to get into the IFS, you need to be in the top 100 ranks of the civil services. And for that to happen, you need to have certain points that others may not cover. And one of the points that I will cover, and we will be covering, would be bringing in my business knowledge into the world of UPSC preparation. So from Ainsoft matrix to Little's law to perceptual mapping, all these techniques will be employed in ensuring that you learn history better, polity better, or geography better. And if you can leverage these techniques in the mains answers, I can guarantee that you'll be scoring at least 2 marks extra than your counterparts that others may not be aware of. That's one aspect that would be of methodology or bringing my business learning to the world of UPSC civil services preparation. The second aspect is again boiling down to the methodology of Harvard case style study approach, which I'll be again bringing in to the UPSC preparation mode. And the reason is simple, because in UPSC, retention is superpower. You need to retain a lot of information. You can play the role of protagonist in history or in geography and take decisions accordingly. So in every class, in the Misfits ecosystem, we will be bringing that Harvard case style approach and discussing methodologies in such a way that retention becomes a no-brainer for you. So you can easily bring forth those points in your prelims or mains or interviews. And third and the most important point is about the integrated approach of preparation. So in Misfits, there's going to be absolutely no nonsense of the capsule courses or prelims 360 or mains 360. It is an integrated course. Because if you want to clear this exam, you need to clear the exam in its entirety. You will not be given medals for clearing prelims examination. You won't be given medals for clearing mains examination. You have to score incredibly well in your mains and interview to get a rank within the top 100. That's for the IFS. And you need to qualify for the prelims examination. So this integrated approach we will of course have those moments where we'll be focusing a lot on prelims, a lot on mains or interviews, but you cannot prepare for mains or interviews in those 3 months gap. It has to go along the journey. And if anyone is saying that you can prepare for interviews in 3 months, that's bull crap. Because the moment you're born, the preparation for interview starts then. Your entire ecosystem keeps track of you. But at least in Misfits, you will have 1 year to prepare for the interview, because in every class, we will have that component of communication and component of how you can analogically think and structurally convey your thoughts. We will have the component of performing really well in the mains examination, because that will decide your rank. And we will of course have the component of retention that will allow you to perform incredibly well in your prelims examination.
Got it. That's very beautiful articulation, Aman. Thank you so much for a 3-point structure. I still believe you're underplaying yourself in the sense that you've worked in United Nations, You have also been a policy advisor to Eastern European governments as well. So because you are preparing the young professionals of India for the next 100 IFS, your experiences therein will come in very handy, valued deed. I'm someone who is a very big advocate of not inviting doctorates or PhD for preparing young professionals. And practitioners rather for preparing them. And I know that's still an examination, right? And I have a lot of conundrum or a lot of challenges with the examination culture in India. But of all the conversations that you and I have had since so many years, the civil services preparation in itself is such a good upskilling, right? It could upskill you for entrepreneurship, it could upskill you for a lot of jobs, just for life as well. So I'm really glad that you are picking this up for the people, and they will get to learn from a practitioner like you. And please let me know if I can be of any help bringing in that practitioner perspective. And we both have the network of GGI as well. Perhaps at some point of time we could chime in the GGI network with your initiative on Misfits as well. Which brings me towards my follow-up question, Aman. Why just IFS?
That's a good question. And by the way, I did work with the government of India as well in the petroleum ministry.
Yes.
And I had a wonderful time before I delved into depth of advising governments in the foreign affairs. I am of the firm opinion that it is extremely important that good people occupy important positions in India. If that can happen, a country will transform. And one of those important positions is the positions of a diplomat. Today, a rural farmer in Madhya Pradesh or Uttar Pradesh may be oblivious and may have absolutely no idea who the Foreign Secretary of India is, or the Ambassador of Namibia is, perhaps the Foreign Minister of India is. But I can give you in writing that she will have direct effects. There will be direct consequences of the negotiations that these people do in the corridors of WTO or the UN. She will see the effect in terms of kerosene price rising or the subsidies going up or down, so on and so forth. Unfortunately, today, many of the people who go into the IFS are those for whom IFS was not even the first choice.
Wow.
They started preparing for the exam to get into the IAS, and just because they did not get a specific rank, IFS was the second option within their hierarchy of preferences in the DAF form. So I want to make sure that next 100 diplomats from Misfits should be the IFS officers, because they will be the folks who will be motivated, inspired, and will have requisite skill sets to really make a big mark in the foreign policy of India, which will obviously have a lot of consequences for the domestic affairs of India.
It's a very beautiful perspective, Naman, and given the global order that we are facing right now, which is having a balanced view of West and the East, I think there could not be better times for someone to actually pick IFS as their first services. And you and I were talking about the kind of branch allocation that happens in India. So for example, if you do not get a better rank, you do not get computer science, right? Even though you might be a computer science genius. Similarly, if you want to study civils, but you do not get civils, which is just really unfortunate way how allocation of either branches happen in engineering colleges or allocation of services happen, which is just pure play based on their rank. I'm really glad that you're picking up something which is kind of playing as an underdog, as a service in itself. And I'm very sure that a lot of people might want to contribute through IFS by going through this entire Misfit.
Although I'm already cutting short my market. And honestly, I don't care about the market space.
Sure.
I want to focus on the minimum number of people and want to ensure that they get that rank so that they can be part of the diplomacy.
Sure. I like that answer. Naman, let's move towards the next question, which is that who is this Misfits program for? Like you said, a lot of people prepare for it. You are already trying to solve this for people who are preparing for IFS. Is there still more specified version of who is this program for? If someone is hearing us, is preparing for IFS, let's be also candid, perhaps they're already going through some coaching center or coaching class method, right? Which is the conventional, traditional method. Who should sign up for it or consider it?
Absolutely. But before I forget, I am on a sabbatical currently from my work in the foreign policy.
Sure.
So I'm doing this just for 1 year. And so therefore, if you're excited to be part of this ecosystem this year, it's for you. Ideally, the people who will benefit the most will be folks who will be attempting this exam. So I'll structure this into 3 segments. Folks at a very macro level who are planning to take this exam in 2024, 25, 26, and 27. Not for folks who are appearing in 23. You may not benefit a lot from this. But if you are pondering, if you're in your college or job And if you are aiming to appear for this exam in 24, 25, 26, 27, this can be a game changer for you. That's number one. Second would be those who are already in professional ecosystem. They are working, they're doing a job, and they can, for some reason, cannot quit their job. For people like them, the most important thing becomes efficiency, which is output divided by input.
Correct.
The entire goal of Misfits would be to maximize on outputs, minimize on inputs. So if you do not have a lot of time, but if you can watch the lectures, even in recorded format, at least 2 times before your main exam or prelims examination, you will, in all likelihood, sail through. I cannot give you a guarantee or writing. I think no one can and no one should. But you will have a really good chance of getting into the services. Third would be folks who are currently in college. Again, with youngsters in college, the problem is managing time. And efficiency is going to be my forte, because that's why I'll be bringing my experiences of consulting into the world of UPSC. So if you are currently in first year or second year or fourth year, now will be the best time to delve deeper for 2 reasons. Number one, make plan A your plan A. Clear this exam in one go. If you can't clear this in one go, pivot. There's no point of making it a 5-year plan. And number two, the kind of services that we are in. If you are in the IFS, you will have a lot of benefit if you join in early. If you're becoming part of the IFS at the age of 22 or 23, you will have a really good chance of becoming the Foreign Secretary of India, or the ambassadors of various other diplomatic positions of important missions. If you're in your first year or second year, this could be a best bet for you, and I look forward to being a part of that journey for you.
Sure, that's very helpful answer, and I know that you very briefly touched upon recorded and live, and that's going to be a separate question that I would want your view on. You very slightly hinted upon your view on UPSC Plan A and not spending years there, and I think I want to now ask this question head on with you, Naman. We both run Global Governance Initiative, where Impact Fellowship is a plan B for people who are stuck in the civil services route, right? And I've seen your write-ups. I know your opinion that you stand for not wasting your youth in just preparing for civil services again and again. Now you're starting Misfits to prepare people for IFS, right? To me, on the surface, at a surface level, it seems like two contradictory opinions. Do you want to help me and the audience understand what do you really stand for and what are the details beneath your decision making?
Of course, I think I've said this out loud multiple times, that there is no exam in the world like the UPSC Civil Services. Because at a young age, it gives you a lot of ability, a lot of opportunities to bring forth large-scale changes in India. We don't have this exam in many parts of the world, but in India, we have this exam. And because of various reasons, youngsters are appearing for this exam. Unfortunately, there are youngsters who make this a 5-year plan or a multi-year plan. And they waste their life, they waste their youth in appearing, reappearing, and revising the same concepts. I'm vehemently opposed to that ideology. If you want to take this exam, appear for this exam in one go. But if for some reason you're not clearing the exam, pivot as soon as possible. And for that to happen, you need to have a lot of clarity in terms of where you want to work. And talking more about why I think UPSC preparation makes a lot of sense is because it's an asymmetric bet in life. If I were to write my GMAT exam today, I will have to pay $275, which is a lot of money.
Right.
And then thereafter, I have to give a lot of fees to the Harvards and the Stanfords going forward. But if I were to write the UPSC exam today, all it costs me is $2. It's a great leveler across geographies, across tier 2, tier 3 cities. And I don't think any exam in the world will give you so much opportunity to rise up in the hierarchy. And therefore, for all the right reasons or all the wrong reasons, many people are motivated to appear for this exam because of their parents, because of their peers, because of the impact that they can make in the world. So for all of you who are taking this asymmetric bet, take the bet, but make sure it's the only bet for a year. Don't overextend it. And this is perhaps the reason we'll discuss why the structure and the syllabus of Misfits makes a lot of sense. And we can talk about it in some time.
Sure, that really makes sense, Naman. And I really like that. So 2 reactions to that. First and foremost, I really appreciate that you yourself understand that civil services examination is an asymmetric bet because your chances of selection are literally less than 1%, right? So even though your investment is less, your probability of getting that return on investment is also really, really less. And point number 2, we both run...
The ROI is high, by the way.
Yeah, but the
it's really
probability of getting that ROI is really, really less, right? And I agree. That's why it's asymmetric bet, because the ROI is really, really high. And I think that's why someone is just so motivated. So many people prepare for civil services, but then point number two becomes really important, that I think, and I'm talking directly to the audience, people really need to understand that it is in the benefit of the conventional and traditional coaching centers to tell you to take the attempt again and again. Why? Because it's the classic business model. Businesses do not just thrive on first acquisition cost, they want you to become repeat customers. That is where their ROI comes from. So if you go to a coaching center and the head of the coaching center or some wala tells you that you have to continue to prepare for civil services, then it is in a lot of their benefit, because they are trying to make you a repeat user. That is where their money comes from. And I really admire, Naman, what you're trying to do, which is the honest reality. Not make business out of it, but tell them that, hey, this deserves one chance in life. It's a good asymmetric bet, but don't ruin your life because of it. Which makes me come to the next obvious question. I'm really curious. I'm sure a lot of people are curious. What is the curriculum? What will people really go through in this entire journey? Do you also want to briefly talk about how long this journey is going to be?
Absolutely. See, 2 points before I answer that question. The first one is you're very right about the usual coaching model, and this is perhaps the reason why you have subscription plans of various coaching institutes, because it's in their benefit so that you can subscribe to their program for a longer duration. And secondly, I'm seeing is that there is a lot of discounts for old students. There should be no old students. All the students who are becoming part of your ecosystem, they should be getting into civil services or pivoting. For some reason, that's not working out.
Equally ludicrous, and it is just sad people don't understand the model.
So the old student discount and the subscription model discount, it's a clear-cut hint that you are in the wrong ecosystem. But jokes aside, in talking about curriculum, I have divided this entire curriculum into 2 phases. The phase 1 is between February 1st to the 1st of May. And in this, we will be covering the core aspects of the UPSC preparation, beginning with history, medieval, ancient, modern. We'll talk about geography, we'll take environment, we'll talk about certain components of polity, the important parts of polity, so that youngsters who are becoming part of this story can start reading newspapers and appreciating the history and connecting dots. That's the phase 1. We covered certain core subjects. And the reason I want to highlight ancient history here is because there are many coaching institutes who will say that, UPSC does not ask questions from medieval history. But it is wrong. I mean, the kind of holistic answers that you can write in paper 1, or the holistic opinions that you can form in the essay paper, if you can bring forth the examples of medieval history, it's going to be truly remarkable. And in UPSC, every single mark count. And especially for those who are aspiring for the IFS, that's my goal. You need to be amongst the top 100%. You don't have to clear the exam. You have to be in the top 100 folks of the UPSC journey. And for you, it becomes incredibly important that you don't leave those core subjects. Phase 1 covers those aspects. Phase 2 is between 1st June to 1st September. And here we cover other remaining aspects of the civil services journey. So we'll have the component of economics, remaining portion of polity. We will cover security issues, international affairs, so on and so forth, science and technology. And then phase 3 will be entire continuum. These will be recorded segments, a few recorded segments. Other than phase 1 is entirely live, phase 2 is entirely live.
Got it. That's very interesting. And Naman, once again, I think you are underplaying yourself a lot as someone who knows your journey. If I'm not wrong, you had one of the highest marks at a national level in your optional.
In my
IR.
optional, yeah.
Yes, IR, right? IR, right?
It's political science and international relations.
Perfect. So I genuinely believe it's going to be such a big bonus for someone to study from an instructor like you directly, who has the experience of going through this journey and the experience of real world, how businesses take place, how public policies are solved at a national, at an international level. Which makes me bring to my almost second last question, which is about live versus recorded. It's a common question. Anyone should be curious about it. So is Misfits going to be live or is it going to be recorded?
It is going to be live, and we will record the lectures so that youngsters can go through these lectures if and when they have the exam scheduled. We will also ensure that they have lifetime access to recordings. There is no subscription nonsense. There is no old student discount nonsense. I want to ensure that, so for example, if someone is thinking and pondering of appearing for civil service in the first year of college, they should attend live, save recordings, and whenever the exam is closed, go through the recordings. In the meantime, connect the dots, read the newspaper, talk to people, form opinions, look at past papers. So both the components will be there, live, and then we will record and make sure that these recordings are made available to you for eternity.
Got it. So if I understand this correctly, the first cohort will go through you, the live and in the recorded
It will be just one cohort because it's a sabbatical for me.
Sure, got it. Which almost brings me towards the last question, Aman, probably drum roll for the audience. How much is it going to be, what is going to be the cost to them to go through this Misfits program for civil services IFS preparation?
Okay, I'm so glad you're calling it IFS preparation now. See, so when thinking about pricing, we can think of it in two ways. First is value-based pricing, and second is cost-based pricing. Value-based pricing is how much value are you going to get from the instructor? What's the background of the instructor? What have they gone through? So while deciding on the pricing, I benchmarked some of the good institutes. And unfortunately, those institutes are run by motivational speakers, not by professionals who have been part of various journeys. And the pricing is exorbitant.
Do you want to
The
put
value,
the numbers?
so it's approximately 1.5 lakhs for every good coaching institute, termed as good coaching institute. So I can not go for value-based pricing because the value will be approximately 5 lakh to 6 lakh per person, and I'm cognizant of the fact that the people from tier 2, tier 3 cities will not be able to afford it. Even though there's going to be an enormous amount of benefit from the preparation, but convincing parents is hard, especially when you're not earning money. So we will be going through the cost-based pricing to an extent that covers our basic costs. It is going to be a social impact venture. I want to be very clear with the ethos and credos. So it will be made affordable to those who are thinking of enrolling. We will also have the component of scholarships if for some reason you're not able to attend, or make sure that you afford the program. So the pricing should be out. Click on the link and you should be able to browse through the website and get through the pricing details and enroll in the program. But please note, the selection process is not going to be that. It's going to be first come, first serve basis. And it's going to be just for the 100 people because I want to ensure that there's going to be personal learning aspect to those who are enrolling for the live cohort.
All right, that's it from my side, Naman. Those were my curiosities about Misfits. If you have any further questions that I missed out to ask Naman, feel free to put it in the comment section. Perhaps we could make a sequel to it. Shall we both have time? Naman, over to you if you want to have any last words for our audience who is preparing for IFS and civil services.
I think my last word would be don't underplay yourself. You all have a lot of strengths. Do not self-reject yourself before even the world considers you. If you have the right mentorship, right guidance, right support system, you can be remarkable as long as you're willing to work hard and trust the person, trust the process. So all the very best. Regardless of your Misfits journey, I hope you all become fit to lead the world and thrive in this world. Good luck.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Naman, for your time.